Coming live from Long Island City, Queens, USA is our guest this evening. Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Asher Laub, electric violinist, composer, producer, and live performer. And he also has a deep Bollywood connection through his music. Welcome to the show, Asher.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Great. It's a great pleasure to have you on the show, Asher. And a lot of people know about violin. They know about music. They will also like to know about what a dancing violinist is and what it takes to become a dancing violinist. So, but before that, let me play your reel so that they can know straightway from you through your reel itself, and then we can ask more questions about it. This is a bit of an introduction for you, for the Indian audience, especially though this show is a global show. It's going all across the world, but I'm sure Indian audience will especially love this. So let's go and listen to this. You also listen it as a second person. Wow. And here is the man himself. It looks so great, so lovely, and fantastic. But Asher,
Thanks.
if it were not for your resolute willpower, this would not have happened. Because 2014 was different. When you faced a nightmare, when you confronted health challenges, and that impacted your mobility. And you refused to accept defeat, you rebuilt your musical prowess to a new level. And this inspired you to reinvent yourself as a dancing violinist. And in only a few months, you learned to merge hip-hop, pop, EDM, rock, and other genres with breakdancing and acrobatic choreography. And now, your live performance now reflect your unstoppable spirit and joy. This is the aspect I wanted to bring to the Indian audience, to the world, to whoever is watching this and will watch in the future, that behind every story, there is another story. And that is the real story, which can inspire a huge number of people, perhaps a whole lot of generation, whole lot of musicians. And that is where you must share about it a bit, so that people can know what it takes to, to reinvent oneself when faced with challenges, especially health challenges. And it almost threatens to take away the very thing that you almost, live for. Please, over to you.
Sure. Well, everything sort of happened naturally after I regained my strength, and it was sort of a no-brainer for me to reinvent myself as a violinist, transitioning from just improvisation, standing on a stage, to more high-energy productions with, in choreography or along with breakdancers. And the natural part of that was the need to just live and find joy, and to not really be concerned about what other people think, and just be able to express myself with every ounce of energy that I have, because that every ounce of energy that I have isn't a guarantee. It's not a guarantee that every breath that I breathe, I should feel fortunate. Every gig that I play is a blessing. This interview is a blessing. And every opportunity that comes my way, most people don't really know my story. The interviews that I do, they tend to know, such as yourself, because I think it's incumbent upon me to share the story. Otherwise, what was the point? What was the point of the whole episode? Facing adrenal insufficiency. It had to have had a purpose. So I've sort of overcome that fear, that anxiety of sharing a pretty dark part of my past, and kind of shifted my frame of mind into how can I help other people with their own challenges? How can I inspire other people to maybe not follow the status quo, what other experts are telling them they're capable of, and think outside the box a bit. And that's essentially what my career is all about.
Right. But how did it come to your mind? I'm asking this question for the reinventing part. People think that once they are doing something, and that is, almost threatened or challenged by events, circumstances, whatever it is, then how do they think of something around it and in a perhaps better manner? So how did it come to you that being a violinist and threatened with a health challenge, you can do something around it and better yourself by learning things around it, and that you don't need to leave it? And then that is where the Dancing Violinist was born. So how did this work with you?
So for starters, it came pretty naturally. I obviously have to practice to coordinate movements with music, with notes, but I've been a really active kid prior to that. I'm going to say even college. So throughout middle school, high school, I was playing endless sports, and most notably gymnastics. So doing flips and that kind of those types of activities were pretty much second nature for me in many respects. So it wasn't too difficult to learn the foot movements, although I did have the assistance of, these amazing dancers with me, in the studio working with me to help me coordinate those movements. But yeah, so we obviously had to rehearse, and I always have to rehearse when I can't just do that stuff on the fly. I don't think anybody can. But yeah, I sort of married two of my pasts, violin, which I started to, so it's sort of like do that stuff in my sleep, and gymnastics, which I can do pretty easily too, just from years of practice.
Okay.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
Right. So let me ask you a bit of it from right now. Then again, I will ask you in another manner. After going through this or seeing life in such a manner, uh, people who are in your line, musical line, independent artists, indie artists, what would you tell them when either they are faced with such sort of a challenge, as well as if there is any other challenge and they are thinking of, what line I have come into, it's better I should have gone into marketing, that I could have become the CEO or whatever. And it is general tendency of a human, you start regretting, sometimes repenting. What would you tell the serious musicians, people who actually have a deep passion for music? What would you tell whenever there is a challenge?
Well, so I want to be, I don't want to mislead people. I do want to be realistic when I present the kind of the challenges of being a musician, being an independent musician, being encountered with different contracts and opportunities. You need to be more than just a musician. You have to have a clear head on your shoulders. You have to know you have to understand the business aspects of being a performer, being hired. You have to know how to negotiate your own contracts. But if you got a good head on your shoulders and you have the capability of being a CEO of a company, then you probably are able to manage also, just applying that to being an independent musician. You need both. You need many skills. I'm constantly wearing many hats throughout my day, and practicing those skills and being challenged with the math, the data driven organization and conceptualizing where my career is leading me. It's not just the music. That's actually I'm not going to say a tiny percentage, maybe like, I don't know, a third of what I have to do each day. The contracts, the negotiations, the collaborations. I mean, you gotta know how to relate to people. It's just the whole. If you feel confident that you have the skills to be a CEO, plus you're a good musician, then go for it. You have a better chance than most.
Okay. So let's now go to the violin part of your career. You started, learning classical violin training just at the age of 2. Who was instrumental into this, that you learn violin and not any other instrument? How did that happen, and how do you remember anything from that point in time?
I don't have an amazing memory when it comes to just like faces and experiences, although it is pretty strong when it comes to music. But when it comes to my childhood, I remember things like it was yesterday, maybe because I've run those memories through my mind repeatedly with love and just appreciation for my upbringing. That being said, it was not an easy, it wasn't exactly a cakewalk with respect to starting that young. My mother obviously was the main influence. Who she claims my oldest brother, who I looked up to, 6 years older, playing concertos, and then my aunt Sheila was in the Boston Symphony. So I've had a number of musical influences that have directed me in the violin path.
Okay. And didn't you? I'm sure you don't remember much of it, but people have a general tendency to go towards those other instruments, like being a guitarist and more into that sort of a culture. So did it never come to you that, listen, now I know about violin, but maybe I should go for something much more people want to be associated with? While violin is a very difficult instrument if I understand from my perspective.
It's difficult not only emotionally and cognitively and psychologically, but physically, and it took a real toll. It's taken a real toll on my body, and I'm not a very muscular person, or at least strong. I've built up my body over the years, but yeah, it's a very challenging instrument. It's not like the turntables, DJing, even playing piano, a bit less strenuous. Guitar and drums were definitely first on my list. My mother would not have it. So, and it's funny because what goes around comes around. My son wants to play drums, and I'm not really looking for noise in the house. But I'm grateful in retrospect. But it was a pretty challenging journey. We're talking like good 15 years until I really came around and started to appreciate the instrument. Had I grown up in India, somewhere, I might have had a different appreciation or love.
You would be perhaps an engineer or a doctor, perhaps.
No, if I had, I probably would have been more passionate about the violin. But yeah, possibly a doctor too. Well, I happen to have a nursing. Yeah, I happen to have a nursing degree, which I'm non-practicing. I'm doing music full time, but that is a side note.
Right. So your mother looks like she had a good bit of understanding, because you went into classical violin training. Now that actually meant that your mother was laying the foundation of your future music career.
Yeah. My mother was, without knowing it, she did not intend for me to become a classical or a professional musician by any stretch. It was supposed to be something important in terms of mind development of a child, because it's, as we know, the research. But she wanted me to be a physical therapist or whatever. I don't say this in the pejorative, but I get it. Every mother wants a stable job for their child. And what it came down to me in the end was passion and joy. Yeah. And it chose me, the career chose me, because it was paying the bills already.
Right. And then how did that transition towards the professional side of it happen? Like, when did you realize, or your mom realized, that you have got into you, that you can make this your career? Though you did a course in, you studied nursing, I guess.
I have 3 degrees in the sciences, actually.
Right. So that's a lot of plans. Backup plans.
A lot of plans, and I implemented them. I was a teacher. I taught the sciences for 4 years, and bachelor's in bio, and I definitely finished all those degrees and everything. But then everything came back to music, and music was where it started when I moved to New York. So,
okay.
Yeah. But so I chose it as a career to answer your question. Once it had already chosen me, once I had already been earning an income, it was sort of like, okay, I'm earning a full income now. What do I do? Do I go into so I did. I went into it to get other degrees from NYU while I was working my way through music. And then I graduated, and I was like, I just moved back into music, which is sort of like, I don't know. Here I am.
Why I'm asking you this, Asher, is that some people are multi-talented. They can be good in studies. A lot of people in India, they are very good in studies. They have good careers, and then they are also good in music. Then they think they are in a dilemma to follow your heart or to follow your bank balance. Sometimes, the needs of our is also there. There is the family. There are so many things to take care of. So how did it come to you that, though, okay, I need to go into music, that this can take care of me, that you knew that you can produce original music, and then you made that shift?
Well, with the blessing of my wife, quite frankly, if she had not given me her blessing and actually encouraged me, oddly enough, even knowing full well, like, we got major bills, like a mortgage, kids. I wouldn't have considered it. In fact, I kept reconsider, I guess taking the perspective of, well, maybe I should just be, practicing as a nurse or a teacher, which is, but my hours were just so long, and I was working so hard, and I figured, I'm already earning money in music, and even if it is significantly more difficult for me to ramp up my income and to keep it stable, why don't I just do something I'm just kind of having fun every day? And that's sort of where it kind of came about. And I guess there's a movement in that direction for people to be sort of independent and sort of online, have an online presence. And I guess it's just more or less becoming sort of a saturated market, the online influencer. But I had sort of already built up a reputation and connections. So I guess you could say, everything's, you're in a trial period still, if I want to kind of shift back, if this completely fails, which it almost did during the pandemic because my income dropped by 2/3. I still didn't do it. I still continued doing the music path. So I don't know what it takes. Maybe it'll take an earthquake for me to stop.
Right, right. And then you came out with your own composition. So what inspired you? Which composers inspired you? Performers, and then you came down to composing your music around that.
Sure. So Neon Dreams, which you just played in my reel in the beginning of this interview, that was one of my first kind of like big productions that kind of landed me on the concert stages, and I'm really proud of that one. It's just a lot of fun. So that's a song that I'm gonna say there aren't too many artists that are producing that kind of music. It's not straight up EDM or electro house, and it's not straight up classical. It's a blend between the two. So there's a few artists that are doing that. I like to think that I'm kind of in the minority of artists, kind of focusing on blending the two genres and doing it for a reason. So what drives me with the original music is that I can't find anything really like this, or not much of it, in the cover realm. And I kind of got tired of playing covers that were popular, but you know, just because they're popular, when my listeners were kind of looking for more. So I still do covers, and covers are still valuable and important to my listeners, but I have a lot of other music in my head that I'd like to share. And Atlantis, most recently, is an example of that. And I'm going to be embarking upon like an original version of the Lord of the Rings medley, which very much lends itself to my listeners, because it's like, okay, it's out, people are loving it and enjoying it, but I'm going to provide a little bit of a different perspective, more violin centric, a little bit of an electronic vibe instead of just purely orchestral. So I guess I'm just bringing in my own unique background and blending the different genres together for listeners. But within the Bollywood realm, that I want to tell you what introduced the Dancing Violinist was South Asian demand. I'm and actually I didn't answer your question originally when you were asking, okay, what kind of gave birth to this concept? That I was initially booked by a producer, I guess an event planner, and she said, okay, we're looking for this kind of concept, and I hadn't done it before, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. So I got into the studio with a bunch of dancers, really talented dancers. And I didn't, and we shot our first music video. You can check it out on YouTube, but that's where the demand started. And then we kind of had other opportunities, and actually, come to think of it, I hope to get more into it, because I've been dabbling in many different types of performance aspects of the violin, and not just Bollywood dancing. You know, I'm not like a Bollywood dancer. I'm a, I'm going to say a little bit more in the Michael Jackson realm.
And how do you decide which cover to do? Because you have done quite a number of Bollywood covers. And which one are you doing next?
Well, I really like the Razan Lambian release, which you can also see on different platforms, especially on YouTube. Shot that out in Maui. That was just beautiful, melodic, kind of like emphasizes the wood and the beauty of the violin also with that solo. What's my next cover? I have a few. I think what I try to do is I try to work on a few songs, and then I release the best sounding one. I'm gonna reserve that one for when it's actually in production. So I'm in the midst of 3 at the moment. So we'll see. Sorry, I can't answer that question yet.
No problem. But we'll look forward towards that. And
yeah.
Some of the covers, I will certainly put it on the YouTube description so that people, can reach to that. Especially, Tujh Mein Rab Dikhta Hai, about the Shah Rukh Khan song and all. I liked it. I listened to that, and I listened to some more. I'm not a music expert. I just know, I understand if it's good. That's it. What it can touch my heart. And most of your music, whatever I've heard, all have been fantastic, I can tell you. And I'm not
Thank you.
just telling you just to make you happy. It actually is, and that's why people who have just joined it, they I would like to play your reel once again for them to actually who I'm talking to, who this person is all about, and what this his music is all about. It may be repetitive, but I don't mind. It's not some sponsored airtime or something like. It's airtime for the heart. So let's go once again. Welcome once again in this big interview with the dancing violinist Asher Laub. So, Asher, we were talking about about your music. Now, you say that through your music, you are working to influence societal norms and conventional thinking about musical performance and helping to break down social and physical barriers. What do you mean by this? And this sounds very inspiring. Can you explain it for our audience?
Well, I'm going to say that big money is pushing certain concepts, certain messages, and certain, I'm going to say, present like musical presentations on the big stage. And what I'm bringing to the stage to my listeners is something that I believe is quite a bit different. I think objectively is quite a bit different than what is typically listened to on the radio and what's most popular now. And there's a demand for it. Not everybody wants to be told what lyrics to run through their head on repeat. And not everybody wants to be told what to think, what cool looks like, what badass looks like, or that it's necessary to be that. The messages that we feed our kids. I have a 10-year-old. He tells me my my peers, my friends, they're all listening. They enjoy your music. They listen to your stuff on Spotify. They all know who you are. I'm like surprised, and I think there's some responsibility on my end. That these are young kids. Obviously, adults are listening, but young kids are more impressionable. So it's incumbent upon me, as first of all, a parent, as a musician, as somebody who's a former teacher, to teach kids that just by example that the idea of cool, the idea of what is good music, the messages that are being relayed to them, that they're absorbing, this is an opportunity for me to influence them in a positive way, to give them good messages, positive messages. And I think that that's one example of influencing society and societal norms. Another one would be, and again, the other one that I mentioned initially, which is the lyrics. I think that people, in the case of Atlantis, that this original song that I just released, right. Check it out on major platforms. That's a song that it's got a sophisticated edge, but it's also still catchy. So it doesn't have to be like this kind of dumbed down, mindless song on repeat. It can still be catchy. It can still be danceable, but still have a sophisticated edge and still have something that people can appreciate, the musicality. And that I think that's another thing I'm sort of bringing to the table. And that's one of the more complicated songs. But if you look at Neon Dreams, that's more or less pretty simple. It's a simple chord progression, more or less. So that's another kind of thing that I'm bringing to the table. I'm also approaching the multicultural vantage point of musical production. So I'm reaching out to South Asian communities, Israeli, people across Europe, the United States, Canada. I'm not limited by what a label is telling me I need to present in my music. I strongly believe in bringing cultures and religions together under one roof, and by extension, giving people an appreciation for each other. And I think that's the beauty of and I think it's an obligation that musical producers such as myself have. I think it's our job to bring people together, and that's what I'm doing.
That's great. That's very inspiring, Asher, especially, from a young musician like you, and especially to the young generation, because if they know that good music has a good future, then they can certainly look into it as something to, make it their career. Because creativity is something, as we get more into artificial intelligence and all that machine learning and everything, creativity is something that will actually make us continue to feel human. That's what I feel.
I agree with that. And the human quotient, the human touch, it's pretty important. We don't want to just feel like, okay, robots are controlling everything and running everything. Although I'd like to have a robot house cleaner.
That's a different thing. It's like if you use technology, till then it is fine. If technology starts using you, that's where the problem begins. And that's right. That's where we got to be aware of it. It's like fire. Yeah. You use fire, it can help you a lot. It can do all the great wonders that has happened in the past, and all the blunders also that has happened in the past, and also happening in present, and will continue to happen. So that's something. Yeah. Yes.
And that's a microcosm of what's about to happen with AI. You just listen to some of the things that Elon Musk has mentioned, and it's just the possibilities are endless, but we have to be careful.
Yes.
I mean, it's already there. It's already here. It's not like going to happen in a few years. It's here. It's not necessarily in our homes in every aspect, but
yes. And that's a huge debate that's happening. I keep on asking, every tech person that I talked to. Recently, I was talking to the technical advisor to the CTO of Microsoft. And in that interview, and also again, a machine learning top guy, CTO of another company, I asked them the same question. If machines are learning about humans, then what are humans doing? What are they learning? Have they forgotten humanity? Or should they remember to learn humanity? Should they remember empathy again? That's the type of. But I do keep on, and I will keep on asking this question. For me, technology should always be an enabler. But if you dabble in technology, then that's a different thing.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you're emphasizing that message, because I think it can be easily forgotten. And it's what do we have over AI if it isn't empathy, if it isn't our humanity, our creativity? Well, we don't even have creativity over AI in short order. I mean, AI can beat us in chess. There's creativity there. So yeah, if we lose empathy, if we lose love, that's something that no, we have nothing over AI. We got nothing.
Right, right.
The
And talking of
exponential learning
music,
abilities
and
over us.
talking of
What's that?
music, this technology is making everybody a singer. Many people are becoming singers just because of the technology. I don't know whether to be happy about it. If I if I
Or-
sing, perhaps I will be happy. But I see it's happening a lot in Bollywood, and you never know what to do with that, because sometimes you like the music, but then you don't like the concept of this robots and all those technology helping you to create music. And others who are, I don't think even their voice is good enough, they suddenly become great singers because of technology. But you can't do, you just have to be on the middle ground and just see. You have no control about it. You can only have your views. These are personal views. You keep it to themselves, and then you just avoid it. That's it.
It's great that everybody's expressing themselves, everybody and their mom and their cousin. It's important. It's important. Music is obviously a valuable tool for people, just as an outlet, emotional outlet. Just feel good about their lives. But as far as like the leading performers, I have what to say, as a longtime classical musician, about like people that need auto tune live and are literally a chart topping artists. I don't know. I guess people are going to listen to who they want to listen to. I'm not a fan of like big money pushing non-talent or mediocrity, but I don't know if there's anything I can do about that.
Right. You see, in DL, when you do, like you at the age of 13, it was your first formal concert with Buffalo Philharmonic. Those are the things people go for when they want to see real musicians, real performers doing things in real. No lip syncing, nothing mixed. No adulteration, no to adulteration in music at least.
So I'll tell you, I moved into South. I didn't grow up with South Asian music in terms of my education, but I moved into it professionally because there was demand and there was appreciation and love for the instrument and for my performances that I had not seen in other, just other clients, other concerts, and other listeners and fans. There's like a deep passion for the instrument that's it's fascinating to me. So that's what has driven me to produce more Bollywood music. I like playing for people who really, they don't just see it as wallpaper, but they actually genuinely want to hear the notes, and they appreciate the music and the violin and the instrument.
Right. It was fantastic. I tell you, I just look, because I don't know you personally. I've just come to know about you recently. So there was nothing to be, just be a yes man about it. If you like it, you like it. You don't like it, you don't like it. But actually, it was very, very good. And that is where, talking of good music, Asher, and monetization, my question is like, how do you have found ways to monetize? Can you share your tips and strategies how independent musicians can look at monetizing their good music, their music, even if it's bad, but people like it, it's fine. But actually, that's they have created. I may not like a particular sort of music. I'm neither an expert. I have my own tastes. That's very personal. But if people like it, then they should earn a good, enough living for themselves.
Yeah, so there are a number of ways to monetize your career. For me, it started and it happened for, I'm going to say, continued for about a decade before I moved into other forms of monetization, live performance. So that's sort of a no-brainer. I hit the ground running when I moved to New York, went to college, and I was working my way through school, and people were booking me to play live music. So it was like, okay, I actually got paid decently, my income gradually, like, I'm going to say over the years. So, and then as there's more demand and you build a name for yourself, that's when you're able to kind of earn income. I wasn't releasing music for the streaming platforms until I had already did some mini tours with my band, and we were actually selling albums back when they had CDs. And I was 10, 15 years ago. We were playing at University of Brand, flying to we're doing gigs in Florida, Georgia. I was working out in Los Angeles doing events there for many years. I was out there like sometimes every week. So yeah, I was earning decent income doing that, and then I sort of wanted to. I felt like I was kind of owned by marketers and booking agents, and I didn't really have much control of my own kind of artistry. So royalty streams is something I moved into, and I'm not earning like an enormous salary, like a couple thousand isn't like paying the bills, but it's at least it's somewhat rewarding for the effort that I'm putting in and putting it on platforms like Spotify, iTunes. People are buying some of my singles, and I have a website, so asherlaub.com/store. Some people are buying those albums. Those are other ways of monetizing. Some other ways that you might not have, your listeners might not have considered is earning income from like reels and streams. So if I'm naturally just each post that I publish on like my Instagram and Facebook, TikTok, that kind of those types of platforms, they're getting thousands of streams. So they're generally generating some income over time also. So everything kind of adds up, and that's why it's really helpful to me when listeners they put my song on repeat and they share my music from Spotify and iTunes and Deezer, and because every stream makes a difference, and every stream helps to support me as an artist. So that's a few different ways. I'm dabbling in royalty income from like video games, playing my music. Okay. So that's another form of income. So yeah, that's just a few. Producing music for other people on occasion also is what I do. Releasing music, getting hired to do work in the studio.
Okay. So. And about live performance, should it be you be dependent on say agents, or should you just keep on marketing yourself and wait for that thing to happen? How does it work better?
Well, I have turned down possibly big opportunities in retrospect that I didn't feel quite ready to work with record labels, because as they say, you don't want to be picked up by a record label when you are at the point where you don't need a record label. So I didn't feel like I was at the point where I didn't need a record label, and I didn't feel like my fan base was strong enough and supportive enough. So I kind of rejected a couple of opportunities. I still don't know if that was the best decision. I am always working with with promoters and booking agents, but I don't exclusively work with them because I don't have an offer that is like irresistible at this point.
Right.
I'm doing both. I'm managing myself, and I'm being managed by people who I trust and who I've built relationships with over the years. And the people who I have the best experience with, I continue to work with. People I have not as enjoyable of an experience with, who kind of treat me as, okay, kind of an appendage, those aren't people I look to work with anymore. So that's how I treat my career. It's pretty fluid. It's pretty organic.
Right, Asher. Now, in terms of, I generally ask this at the end, but this time, let me ask now about how can people connect with you in terms of getting to know more about you, getting to buy your music, if others want to collaborate with you, Bollywood wants to reach out for original music. A lot of people have performed here, and then there are a lot of live performance. India is a big market for almost everything, and music plays a very special part in our lives.
Yeah, thank you. And there are many ways to reach out to me. The primary ways, I'm going to say, fans DM me on Instagram, sometimes clients also. I get a lot of like booking requests through my contact page on asherlaub.com. I also have an entertainment group called fiddlersdreammusic.com, which involves booking of a number of different acts, including myself. So what else? People connect with me via the comments. That's something I really enjoy, and it means a lot. Instead of just sort of passively watching my content, leaving comments and liking and sharing, that type of stuff. That's something I deeply appreciate as an artist. So you can also find me on all major platforms. Just search the name Asher Laub. Instagram, Deezer, iTunes, Amazon, all those major platforms. And on social media, like I'm gonna try to go live today. On Facebook, I tend to go live once a week, and that's something that people connect with me pretty regularly. So that's the gist. YouTube also. Yeah.
Right, Asher. Now, so let's now come to your latest single, Atlantis. So you talked about it, but what is this about? Because when you talk about Atlantis, the music almost reminds me about the lost world of Atlantis. At least I don't know if that's the real meaning, but at least it makes the way the music has come out. Everybody looks at music the way their heart tells it them to, and they perceive it that way. For me, my perception of this particular single or music or violin that you played was that old world sort of a connection with something much deep than it's very difficult to explain, perhaps even to you. But you tell what exactly this is all about, and why did you name it Atlantis?
Well, I guess I'm in this sort of epic state of mind watching all these Lord of the Rings series, The Hobbit. I just been binge watching it. So I really can't get enough of like the epic medieval kind of experience, and it lends itself to the violin for sure, because that we're talking an instrument that wasn't invented yesterday exactly. The concept of Atlantis is really kind of larger than life. It lends itself to this kind of, like I mentioned, epic sort of perception of whatever the story is. So my experience has been pretty epic from inside of my brain over the last 20 years in particular. And I'm referring specifically to my health challenges. So Atlantis doesn't have lyrics, like I mentioned. It doesn't tell you what to think, but inside my own mind, it sends a message of strength to me, and I hope to people that might interpret this song that begins with an ominous low and then a climactic high, and then repeats cyclically to an ominous low and then a cyclic high. And the reason for that is that it's really representative of the highs and lows and the many challenges that we face throughout our lifetime. And sometimes the highs seem really larger than life, and the highs that I've experienced are really highs. And I'm talking like playing major stages on some of the biggest concert venues in the world, national television, those types of experiences where you feel like, okay, this is going to continue, right? And then it doesn't. And then things end up back at a low where it seems like things are so low, they can't get any, like, could they possibly get any worse? And is it possible that things will get better? And yet they do. And it's a reminder to me, and hopefully to other people, that just because things are really bad or just because things are really good doesn't mean that they're going to stay that way. And we are human beings, and we have creativity, and we have strength that we don't necessarily feel we can get access to until that strength emerges during times of stress. And I think it's a message of hope, and it's a message of try to take just the even keeled path, temper your highs and your lows, and you'll hopefully live a good life. And that's essentially my message, and that's kind of my own guide. So hopefully that helps your listeners, find some inspiration.
The highs and lows of life from Asher Laub. That's why you say, my greatest failures were ultimately my greatest blessings.
That's right. And I still maintain that. And I hope to produce more music that relays those messages, because that would be an example of departing from what I'm going to say is the typical message of a lot of the major music out there. It's a message of hope, people that are in pain looking for hope not giving up on themselves. And that's the theme behind my music.
Right, right. Music is the message of hope. So with this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. But we will certainly play music of yours, your reel, as a message of hope for all of us once again. Thank you so much, Asher Laub, for your time. It was indeed a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, it was a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate your time.